Hello, good morning, everyone, and welcome to Wow Wednesday. I am Nancy Matthews. I'm one of the founders of Women's Prosperity Network, along with my two sisters, Trish Carr and Susan Winner. And for the past 15 plus years, we have had the privilege of working with extraordinary women just like you, and some really good men too, who are all about using their gifts, skills, products, service, projects that they're working on to improve the world, to make the world a better place for themselves, for others, and for their community. So we're so glad that you're with us today. And today we're going to be talking about something that most people don't want to talk about. And talking about it in advance is what makes your life so much better and those unexpected circumstances better. So I have Mary Jane Charles with us today, and she's going to be sharing with us about surviving the nitty gritty. And we'll get into that in a little more detail in a moment. Before we kick off, let me share Women's Prosperity Network announcements and fun stuff that's happening. So first of all, big shout out to the approximately 75 or 80 people who joined us this past weekend for the Sales and Marketing Boot Camp. Woot woot. I love that you were there and really committed to creating this. We focused on what if, and imagine this, if sales and marketing were easy, fun, and natural, I would have an amazing business, an extraordinary life, help more people. And that's who showed up. So kudos to everyone who showed up and took that on for themselves. If you weren't able to make it and you are somebody who wants to step into that place of serving more people, I am doing a workshop Thursday and Friday. It's a two-part workshop. So if you can make it for one or both, you want to register. And it's all about how to take this final quarter of 2023 and hit it out of the park. And I know you've probably thought about it before, talked about it before. And I want to take you through the process that works for me, that works for so many of our clients, to just get centered and focused and create what we call an inspired action plan, not a drudgery business plan, an inspired action plan. So check it out by going to womensprosperityNetwork.com/thrive, because it is your time to thrive. And with that, I am going to go ahead and bring on my good friend, Mary Jane, MJ Charles, as we dive into today's conversation about surviving the nitty gritty. So let me share a little bit about MJ and her background, and then we'll dive in. So MJ Charles is the Last Wishes facilitator, and she provides a simple process for those who want to assemble their last wishes. Based upon her own experience of losing a loved one suddenly, MJ gives you peace of mind knowing your last wishes will be carried out after you are gone, having left detailed instructions. She is an award-winning author and creator of the Gathering Your Wishes program and provides easy-to-use tools so that you can compile detailed instructions to facilitate your will after you're gone. Today, we're going to jump into this conversation and let's talk about some wishes you're making now for your last wishes. So welcome, Mary Jane.
Good morning. Thank you, Nancy, for having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure.
So I wrote the book for myself. It's Surviving the Business of Dying Why Final Papers Matter. I found myself in a pickle. There were no papers, nothing, not a will, not anything you would think of automatically. And so I had to ask a lot of different people who I did not know before for help. Pardon me. And without going down that black hole, 3 weeks after it all started, I looked at my desk. It looked like a war room. Actually, it was not a desk. It was my dining room table. And I had piles. And I sat back after having a good cry and a good old-fashioned fit because I was so frustrated. And I thought, these are not piles. These are chapters. And that's what started my book. And my book is not a complicated thing. It was basically my brain on paper at the time. And then I finessed it into my story. And from that emerged a workbook. And what it came down to is the nitty gritty. I'm not an attorney. I'm not a CPA. I'm not a psychiatrist. And you do need all three, not all on the same level, but if you know any one of them, keep them as your friend. You might need to call upon them if an abyss overtakes you at some point. What I learned was it comes down to the nitty gritty, and we all have our lives on our phones right here. And this phone saved my life in that I was able to get my husband to nod or shake his head as I read the state medical directive to him. He wouldn't fill it out. It took me 20 minutes and I had it on the phone. I did not know I would be using it that afternoon. Literally, we were on a business trip and a ride to his office, and he collapsed in the car beside me. And I was in the ER and they asked for his final papers. I said I didn't have it, but I had this video. The doctor was amazed and thankful, and that began the saga. So if I can ask you for one thing today, fill out your medical directive. They're online, they're free. You're mute, Nancy.
Okay, so let's pause for a second, because I'm sure our listeners are like, what did she just say? I don't get it. And as you're listening, everyone, this is the reason that she's saying we need to get this stuff done now. So let me recap. You're driving in the car with your husband on your way to a business meeting. And somehow you decided it was important to have him record his medical directive. Like, that was a divine intervention, it sounds like.
Absolutely, it was. Because for months I had had the form, and for months I had my phone. And that morning I looked at the two of them and I thought, bingo, put them together.
And later that day, he collapsed?
Correct.
Wow. So look how lucky Mary Jane was in that, because she got that intuition, that hit, that what I call God taps, right?
Yeah, God wink, yeah.
To go ahead and record it. Now, look, can we talk for a minute? And then we're going to get into some of the other details, the things we want to work on in advance. What have you discovered? I know you've worked with lots of people and supporting them and getting this paperwork done in advance. What is it that gets in the way of us actually doing it? Because we need to open up that, right?
Well, I think it's akin to when we were growing up and our parents didn't want to have the talk, if you will, about sex. So now we're all that much older, and now it's the talk about not so much death, but just organizing ourselves. And to this point, it need not be dire circumstances. God forbid you hear people slipping in their driveway or in their bathroom and they're knocked out. You need something to speak for you. And my workbook can do that in the smallest of circumstances. And your neighbors know the most about you on an everyday. Hopefully you have someone who does, and they can run and get the big yellow book. She has it here. This is who we call. That is the ultimate reason for this book. Yes, it could be used as an adjunct to a will, certainly, and maybe even a helpful preparation to go have a will done. But the workbook is key, and the details within are key for anyone over 18. It's not for old people.
Right. It's for anyone, because, the unexpected happens way too often. And we do. Now is the time for us to pay attention to things. And I'm going to own it. I have not done this myself this weekend. So how can I do it this weekend if I want?
That's
what I'm like, you got me inspired. Now I want to just do it and schedule it. Because I've said I would do it before, but I haven't. So
Well,
I'm
by
owning
this
stuff.
weekend, it
Hey,
is.
everybody, I'm owning that I haven't done it. And I'm making a commitment and I'm announcing it right here and now. How do I get it done?
I would go on Amazon. They have next day delivery if you're going away, and however other. If you order directly from me, I can sell them as a set, but it takes 7 to 10 days by the good old US mail.
That's okay. That'll work out just perfectly. So I just go to your website and I buy your book.
Correct. Or you can go directly to my author website, which is mjcauthor.com. And
Okay.
I can get them in the mail today.
All right. We're going to give you all of those links so that you'll be able to get started on this. And today she's going to share with us some steps in surviving the nitty gritty. So give us some directive, my friend, learning your experience.
So what you can do today that is really simple. So you get online, get your medical directive. The nitty gritty to the medical directive is it's not intended to be a secret. It's something that should be on your refrigerator, that if you fell, the first responders will say, do you have a medical directive? And you grab it from the refrigerator, have it in a freezer bag. It's not pretty, but it's certainly useful. And it's the first thing any first responder looks for.
Did you just say to keep it in the freezer?
Keep it in a freezer bag.
Oh,
No, I'm speaking too quickly. I'll slow down.
Or I'm listening too slowly. I don't know which it is. Let's call it on me.
You can put it in a freezer bag and put it on the refrifrigerator. So
it's right there and a bit, or put it in the freezer. Either one.
Everybody's different. Yes. You can put one in your glove compartment. Put a tiny copy in your wallet, your night table. The thing is, you want to be able to know where it is and not stand there and wonder, because that all means time.
Would you can you clear up for me, a medical directive covers what types of things?
The medical directive is the form that can plug you in and continue your life, and they give you a set of circumstances. You should sign it and have it notarized. Definitely dated, because we change our minds. If you had one from 15 or 20 years ago, perhaps your circumstances have changed. You might want to update it. But without it, the hospital doctors are intended to help, not harm. So they will do what they need to do and plug you in. And to unplug you, so to speak, takes more attorneys and papers.
Yeah. Okay. So when this happened with your husband and you got him on video stating what his wishes were, did the doctors honor it when you showed them the video?
So he went by ambulance, and upon arrival, they just assumed, because I didn't know all that I'm telling you today, they wheeled him in and they started to work on him, as they call it. They were able to revive him. He never regained consciousness, but they got a heartbeat. And so at that point, that doctor came out to me, because the next step was to go up to the ICU and be put on real machines. And I said, no, those are not his wishes. And he looked at me and he's like, I need a medical directive. And that's when I was able to show a 20-minute video of his patient on my phone. And he was flabbergasted. He borrowed my phone to walk up to the powers that be, I'm sure, who makes these judgments, to make sure that it was.
Right. He needed to cover his.
Absolutely. This was, he's like, there's this chickie lady down in the, ER who took video of her husband. And I did that because he was so visibly weak and disoriented. And if you don't do something like this, it's your word versus whoever else is standing there. And in another world, in another war, it was me versus a family. and I was not repeating that in my brain. So that switch was turned as well. I was CYAing for myself if no one else in the room.
Right.
And that I did due diligence.
Yeah, excellent. Okay, so definitely get our medical directives done. What are some of the other things we want to take a look at in terms of last wishes? Because I know you work with people for a lot of things. And I've called to mind recently, I was speaking with two different people who've had deaths in their families, and there is fighting among the family members on who gets what and who has this, and I want that China set, or whatever it is. It can tear families apart if there's no directives on what to happen after we're passed.
And human nature, it has nothing to do with income or customs. If there is a stamp on the floor, someone will claim it. I mean, that happened in my family, and I just sat and watched. I'm like, holy smokes. And so you will be shocked. You cover it. In the detail, that's I have here, the devil is in the details. Hire an attorney to write your will. They do know what you don't know, and they do know what you need to know. It's not an expense. It is an investment. And so my workbook backs that up with your nitty-gritty details. So you don't have to spend time, money, effort, and guts to go dig for the stuff that make all your wishes happen. If, for instance, name your bank branch. Don't say I bank at B of A and leave it there. That's a huge place. Give us a branch, give us a manager's name or someone with whom you do business. If you don't go into a bank anymore, may I strongly suggest go in and meet somebody, because somebody has to go into a bank and speak with a human being should you not be available. And you're there on, Nancy would go in and say, I'm here on Mary Jane Charles' behalf. And Victoria would say, oh, how are you? You have a warm greeting. That's all you need to make your day.
Relationships.
Rather than be doubted and have to prove yourself.
I want to ask a question about this piece, and
Sure.
it may be something for an attorney. I get that. When you have your bank accounts, do you recommend like putting a second person on the bank account now while you're alive? Because I think once you die, nobody can access anything, right?
Correct. And yes, that's one of my points. It is very okay to add a cosigner. They don't need to know. You can brief them at some point. No one else needs to know. This is someone, and they need not be a relative. Because relatives, God love them, but they talk. And so if you have a absolute, reliable, trustworthy human being in your life who would do this for you, I mean, I resort to neighbors have seen me through many things. And they can easily go to whatever branch in their town if they're not nearby, but you have a destination and a name to give them. So yes, cosigners, that goes for credit cards as well. And credit cards also have, you can share an account. Each account is different, but speak with someone in each case. There is no blanket for the cards you use. You have to go to each vendor to find out their rules, and you got to do some homework. But right. Yes,
otherwise you're looking at, and I know in the will package there's the last will and testament, your medical directive, a healthcare surrogate, somebody to make health decisions for you.
Yes.
And then a power of attorney.
Right.
The other piece of it. So in your workbook, do you guide us through some of these things?
I suggest them I will be revising it to add many more things in the coming year. But right now, pardon me, I name everything you will need. And that's, as you say, perfect. Part of the attorney kit. In addition to the attorney kit and anything a CPA gives you, there are still details that you're like, I didn't think of that. Like a social media administrator. And you're like, what? What is that? So again, it's a reliable, trustworthy human being on that topic. It could be a 15-year-old. I'm sure attorneys have someone in their office that's savvy, but you'll pay for it. And if you can't handle things, it's amazing how people want a job to help. Give them a job, especially a kid. This is an important job. They loved you dearly. They will take care of you. Wow. And so kids are really wonderful. And my kid's 34, and I still get to reclaim. He was a rock, and he did all the errands for me. Pardon me. That's where I came up with the term first lieutenant. I had so much going on, and he'd come down with his T-shirt and Cheerios and look at me. He saluted me one morning because he could see the next list being born. And I said, "You're my first lieutenant. Go change your clothes. You got to start in a half hour." And it worked. And he wasn't like, he was important. He was very important, but it helped him through his day as well. So think of first lieutenants as your second in command, but they will do anything and everything to make it work. He knew the people involved. He could drive. He could ask the right questions. They knew him, made it very simple to get lots of details. Call in your chips at your local parish or temple or however or whatever you do. There are real life church ladies who love to put on receptions, and one of them does flowers and the other is really good at music. You will go check, check, and check. You don't have to leave your dining room. These people do this for, a donation.
Is this something that we want to do in advance? Like, so that, so I'm gone, let's say. Do I reach, or I'm still here? Do I reach out to these people now and create a list of, this is who you call for this is who you call for that? Is that what you're suggesting?
Yeah, you would fill in as many blanks as you can, or at least investigate what you think goes down so you have it in your head, and maybe have a side conversation if you have the liberty and the blessing of being able to plan almost in the moment. You just bring out your yellow book and say, this is what I want. This is how we're going out. That to me is my choice. But at least it gives someone who follows you a lead. You don't have to start from ground zero. These are all suggestions. I would say if you finish your workbook and you need to make changes, and we all make changes. This is not a contest. It's not a test. When you make a change, put a simple line through it, initial it, and date it. Because if you erase or just scribble it out, someone who comes along afterward, namely family, will look at it and say, well, who made this change? And why was it changed? And therein, the games begin. So leave no doubt, put your initial and date it. You can do that 45 times. I left a blank page next to each question page. But just do that and it eliminates problems and angst later on. Your passwords. Passwords. Everyone needs passwords. So I have at least 2 pages in there just to name all your accounts, especially making note of your automatic withdrawals and deposits. Yikes, especially the withdrawal side.
Right, so, especially, I recently, and this was probably from one of our conversations, I made an Excel spreadsheet of all my renewables with the dates that they renew. So I made that for me, but now I'm thinking I need to include the link to where that is so somebody else can access it, right?
There you go.
Yeah.
All the things you don't think of unless they hit you in the moment. You're like, how would I know that? I don't know that. And then you have to go back, spend hours on the phone with whoever.
Yeah. Now,
Yeah.
you have a workshop tomorrow, and this is something you do often, correct?
Correct. I have class.
Tell us about the workshop.
The workshop is, I now have it at 1:00 and 7:00. And it's on my website, and it is 50 minutes long. It's an introduction to the process. I go through the workbook. We will not take time to fill it out because everybody's individual. But what it will do is give you an idea of what to pull together in order to fill it out. Oh, I would never have thought that. I have no idea what that is. If somebody wanted a military funeral, for instance, that's easy. Just call your local Veterans Association and they walk you through all the steps. Much easier to do it now because sometimes there's a backlog than in the moment and have to wait. That's something you can put together very easily. They will need the day of discharge and some papers to make it all.
Right. Again, you wouldn't think of these things.
Correct.
So getting all this stuff together now makes it much easier. And, we don't want to think about things, I guess, or it's hard or it's difficult, but think about the difference that will make for the people we care about. And that's why we do this. We do this.
In the moment, it's huge. This is a gift of time and generosity to your family so that you, first of all, will be relieved that there's actually a map, real directions. It doesn't fall in their lap like a IKEA project, for God's sake. This is written down. And the other thing is that, I just lost it. What was my point? Well, you'll need them. You'll just need all the instructions. I don't know, it's gone. It'll come back.
Yes, it will. I have somebody, if you could, who was looking on Amazon for your book and couldn't find it. So what's the actual name of the book? Surviving the Business of Dying?
Yeah, Surviving the Business of Dying, Why Final Papers Matter. Okay. Or they can just put in my name, MJ Charles. I was there the other day.
Yep, I got it. I found it. I'll put the link in the chat. Oh, let's see. Laura says, I got the book and we started, but now we need to continue. Oh, that was the wrong link. Hold on a second. It's a very long link to Amazon that I'm putting in the chat for you to get the book. All right. Mary Jane, what else do you want to share? Because I know you have a lot to guide us through today, and I want to make sure that all your little nuggets, big nuggets get.
Okay. This too you can do today. Put the top 5 people you would want called if you cannot speak for yourself. Put them in your phone. If you can, put them in under ICE. And that is jargon for in case of emergency. And let these people know that they might receive a call from a stranger. Let them know they're on your list. Because who answers the phone when you don't know who's there? So in any case, if the police have your phone and they call, it's okay. So you would have obviously your top 3. The 4th should be an attorney if you have one. And then the 5th should be an out-of-state person with all the calamities we have between, shootings and hurricanes and earthquakes. Just have someone out of state. I happened to be in Oakland when the '89 quake occurred, and we knew a lot of people in San Francisco. We couldn't reach them for 3 days, but I could reach New York, and I know communications have improved since '89, but I had to call New York, and my mother could reach San Francisco. So that's how we all knew everybody was okay. But it's still okay to have an out-of-state person. So at least 5 people, so that they have more than one person to call. Your passwords, cosigners. The medical directive, back to that for a moment. Any adult in the house should have one. 18 and over, because car crashes happen and trees fall on people's heads. I mean, everyone needs that. I would say that would be number one. And if you don't know an attorney, it would be a probate attorney that you should look at. Also a CPA. Sometimes it's a twofer. They do both. So just start, because I had to shop for an attorney the week of the funeral. I found myself in my eldest stepson stepped in. He was in his 50s. He said, we should go meet this man. This is the day after my husband died. It was surreal. And the two men are talking to each other. They did not look at me once, which allowed me to just sit back like Woody Allen and watch it unfold. Mm-hmm. I was so angry. It got me out of the, oh, poor Mary Jane. I was like, what is going on? And I let them babble. He called me Mary Ann. I thought, you know what?
What?
Let's get the name straight. He was in Portland. I lived in Washington. Did I have a mailbox, which I did for business? He said, well, we can do it here. I thought, oh, so 2 more sentences. And I just stood up. I thanked them all for their time. And I called the meeting to an end. They were flabbergasted. And the gentleman puts his hand on the small of my back and says, oh, Mary Ann, I'm so sorry for you. I thought I was going to flip him.
I was going to say that is quite inappropriate.
Like Ziva in NCIS. He was going to go flying. I told my stepson, I said, you know what? I will find my own attorney. It will be next week. It will be after the funeral. Amen. Because any longer I would have committed a crime. So it was good I got out of there.
And while we're speaking about this, and Laura mentioned it in the chat, that talk about Legal Shield, because that's a great, I know if you have Legal Shield, you can get a will done. Tell me about how that works.
Absolutely. It's, first of all, they're fast. They're very attentive. You're not put on hold, and you don't really have to go through the first 3 levels to speak with someone. You call and you're greeted well, and obviously you're there on a mission or you wouldn't be calling. So they do ask if it's personal or business, and business is also an element to all of the above. You probably should have a workbook simply for your business in many places. But for the majority of us, to call Legal Shield and get their will packet, and they will guide you through. You can always finesse later on, but to have something in writing that is legal and has the guidance of an attorney is most important. Last but not least, they're affordable.
Mm-hmm. Very affordable. And all of that can be really expensive when you're trying to figure out, how do I bury my loved one? How do I manage through all this? And if there was no will, like that's a whole nother mess. Like
Absolutely.
Not will, lets the state decide who gets your stuff.
That's right. And I had to do that. You can't move money. You cannot, you want to keep the lights on and pay the mortgage. That's all frozen. And if there's no will, you have to have a petition to this probate state court. It takes 2 weeks to get your document as personal representative.
It's such a,
it's like hurry up and wait. It's unbelievable.
So you can all see that Mary Jane is passionate about this. She's skilled at it. She knows how to guide you through the process. Let's get this done. So I'm going to open up to give you an opportunity to ask questions, share insights. And Mary Jane, tell them again about the workshop that's happening tomorrow. And I know there's one tomorrow, but you do them often. Is that correct?
Yes, I do. I do them monthly. They're in the middle of the month. I will post October's classes on this Saturday, but tomorrow's I have 2 classes. One is at 1 p.m. The next is at 7 p.m. It runs 50 minutes, and you will receive, as an attendee, you receive a digital copy of the workbook.
Oh, so if I come sign up for the workshop, I get a digital copy of the workbook right away, so I can start working on this stuff.
Yeah, get it together. Look through it, and we do that. And I can answer more questions in the class. And if you don't want, I'll be having a Get Her Done class in November as a group. And it's all those for everybody who started it and then life kicked in and it's right where I left it. So we'll do that.
So so beautiful. Let me tell everybody how they can come to the workshop, and then you can also, if you have a question or a comment that you want to share today, just hit *6 if you're on your phone. Unmute yourself if you're on Zoom. Raise your hand if you're with us on Zoom, or if you're with us on Facebook, just put your question in the comment feed, and I'll bring it to Mary Jane. To get the book, to sign up for the workshop, all the stuff that Mary Jane does, you want to go to her website, which is lastwishesnsupport.com. So last wishes, the letter N, support.com, lastwishesandsupport.com, right? I love it like that. And if you want to reach Mary Jane, you can just email mj@lastwishesandsupport.com. So lastwishesandsupport.com. And I'll put that in the chat as well. Sign up for the workshop, get the workbook right away, which is really awesome. And then we can continue the process. Anything else you want to share before I open up for questions?
Just that it's not all serious in the workbook. And as far as starting the conversation with someone who you really think needs to do this, we all need to do it. It's common sense. So that debunks the uh-ohs and the angst. You're removing it for both of you. And but there are some fun things in there too. You can start your own obituary, which can be comical. Talk about all the awards you won growing up. Tell all the secrets that nobody knows. Your first, but I mean, I have lots of lists. And once you get into it, you will get into it and you'll have fun in a good conversation.
Excellent, excellent. Okay. Go to lastwishesandsupport.com. Get started today. And we've got a couple of questions coming in, so I just love that. And Coach Carrie, would you like to come on live and ask your question? Because you can if you want. You won't. There we go. It's just audio.
Okay, yes. Hi, Mary Jane. Such great information you provided, and I am definitely going to get to work on that. But I was wondering, is the medical directive the same as the living will?
It can be. If I would compare them, Legal Shield will provide that as well. And so the terminology might be a little more detailed, I guess is the word. Most medical directives are one sheet, and it's this, or this, but it buys you time basically till somebody comes in with the legal document.
Thank you.
Excellent. Good. All right, Coach Sherry, thank you for asking that great question. I see Laura Barker has her hand up.
Yes, I do. Good morning.
Good morning, Laura. How are you?
So I want to say, Mary Jane, what you're doing for us is golly, so important, because I got your workbook and I thought I kind of had an idea of like what I needed to do. I mean, I am an attorney, right? I should know. But, yeah. No, I was blown away just with the detail, the foresight that you have, and one of the things that I know just from working with you and being around you, and y'all probably picked up on this today. Listen, if anybody can make this process fun, it is Mary Jane, right? You will laugh the whole way through this class. You will end up just being so grateful on so many levels. That's how I feel anyway. So I have the workbook, right? But I have a lot of, but it's a lot, folks. She's not kidding. This is the big yellow book. And So I am so thankful you're offering this class.
Thank
I
you.
will be there. I would not miss it. And because I know that you are going to be able to help me wrap my head around this whole process. And y'all, your story, Mary Jane, of with your husband, I can't even imagine what you had to go through, and that you have taken that and turned it into a force for good for people. It is just fantastic. I do have a kind of it's not a question necessarily related to the class or anything, but as I was listening to your story again, I was thinking, how on earth did you even know what to talk to your husband about in that 20-minute video? Like,
Right.
even if I had thought, oh, I need to do something, I know I would not have had the presence of mind to like conduct some kind of interview. You just you were brilliant.
Well, thank you. And he was sick and he wouldn't go to a doctor. He went to Dr. Google. I was ready to throw his computer out the window. He was just that weak that I didn't worry about anything else. I needed this elusive piece of paper. And he wouldn't do it. He was terrified. So I just finally, I think that morning he had whittled away to the point that he's like, just to shut her up, I'll do this. And that's how it worked. But why in that moment, that day, I mean, it had been months that I finally, the light went on. That was absolutely an event.
Divine interventional. I mean,
It
right?
was an epiphany.
Yeah, right. And I want to say another thing too. Just you haven't really pointed this out much, but I think it's so smart of you to have started offering Legal Shield, because it just fits so nicely with your whole process. Because look, none of us can afford to go hire an attorney at an hourly rate anymore. Right. I mean, that's insane. And so I love that you have decided to make that, a part of your overall program, should people want to go that route. So you just cover everything, Mary Jane, and I just love you for it. So
thank you very much. Legal Shield. And I offered because I use it, and I called them, and it was such an entirely different conversation than I'd had with legal people before. I mean, I hired 3 different attorneys through the 18 months for this estate, and it was not a big estate. And 2 of them were women, and they couldn't get it done. I was like, come on, girls. One had gone to Notre Dame, another to Stanford. I was like,
You know what's funny? I hadn't thought about this, but when I also, of course, offer Legal Shield, but when I was a customer first, and I was a customer because my mother passed, and we were dealing with probate issues, and it was a nightmare. Even though she had a will, it was still a nightmare, right? And the fact that I had an attorney, even though, yeah, I'm an attorney, but not that kind, right? So it didn't even matter. And so those probate attorneys over there are just, and I say over there, they're in every state. So, but anyway, have been phenomenal. So, and I'm glad I know you had the same experience. So anyway, thank you so much for all you're doing.
thank you, Laura. That was wonderful. I appreciate it.
Yes. Thank you, Laura, for all you do and always being with us. And you and I, girl, we're both going to get our workbooks done.
Yeah.
Right now. All right. Yes, we are. And so go to lastwishesnsupport.com, all one word, lastwishesnsupport.com. Sign up for the workshop, get the workbook. Let's do this. Let's take care of ourselves and the people we care about now to make things better, because it would break our hearts if
It's a mess. We're going to have to go in and yell at everybody and say, this is the book. I have one request. If anyone goes through and thought, sometimes my questions are thought prompting. If you think of something that is not covered in my book, could you send me a little email and I will include it in the next version. Because I tried to cover lots of things, but I know I'm missing lots of things.
Yeah. And
Thank you.
something is better than nothing. Let's get
Yeah,
real. Right? So we gotta just get her done.
Yeah.
All right, let me open for our next caller, which is Carolyn. Your line is open.
Yes, hi, Mary Jane. Thank you
Hi,
for
Carolyn.
sharing.
Good to see you.
I just wanted to share my experience with helping my mother fill out a medical directive. It was actually ordered by the doctor because she's age 97 and she lives with my sister and my brother lives close by. They're in Indiana, but neither one of them wanted to touch the subject. So when I went to visit, I was given the task. And we just sat down and I went through the questions and, asked if this were to happen to you, what do you want to happen? And we got it done. So sometimes you have to ask a different family member to take care of.
That's right. And don't hold it against them. They'll figure it out themselves. But just remember, you're on a mission and it's a good mission. So sticks and stones, but you get it done.
Right. And the second thing I wanted to mention is that I help people build their financial house, and we put the will package as the foundation along with the life insurance. So those two things need to go together.
Lovely. Lovely. Well, and that's great, Carolyn. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks for being with us, Carolyn, and for doing what you do to support people through this process. And that is essential, is to couple the will package, life insurance,
And
your
emergency fund.
care, all of that stuff. Like, it's great that you're doing that work. So thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome. Let's go next to Jeanette.
Thank you. So my husband just came in and we looked at all of our papers and everything's up to date and looks really good. There's one person I need to cross off. If I just cross it off and initial it, would that work? And that's something
are you talking about your will?
The living will.
Okay, that whoever helped you put that together, if it's an attorney, I would call him or her and be advised. I'm not an attorney.
Needs to be notarized.
Well, we did it on the military base while we were still military, and that's been 13 years ago. So we can't go back to the base because they don't take care of veterans. They only take care of active duty because there's so many people. So anyway, so you think I should get it rewritten then?
I think I would, if I'm not an official on that at all, but just start a new one is what I see here in the.
Yes,
right.
If
you want the most protection, do a new one, because the other one would bring question into mind. And I want to say, kudos to you and your husband right now taking action, pulling out your papers. Way to go, Jeanette.
Well, thank you. He does have stage 4 cancer. So, we try to stay ahead of everything. We're doing our best.
Really good. I honor you, and I'm sending you lots of love and him love too in the process.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome. So get a new one done. And if you don't have attorneys at hand, check out the Legal Shield, because it's a very affordable way to get all of that done very quickly. So it's pretty cool. Awesome. All right, let me check. Jeanette, did you want to say anything else?
No, that's good. Thank you. I just am grateful and I appreciate it.
Awesome. Very good. Very good. All right. We have a couple of minutes left. If anyone else would like to share a question or a comment before we wrap today. And again, you want to go to lastwishesandsupport.com, just the letter N, lastwishesandsupport.com. And you can email Mary Jane MJ at lastwishesandsupport.com. Mary Jane, final questions, comments, thoughts you want to share? And I look at how you've called people to action today. You're doing really good.
Thank you. I just want to add, I think it was Carolyn who has the will kit. Think of this as as part of a kit. We have earthquake kits and first aid kits. This is your last wishes kit. It's not the major happening, but it's a kit to get you going and remind others that there's more in there. I would say, Carolyn, if you would like, contact me and maybe I could give you books at less than the going rate, and you could include them in your legal kit that you give people. So I'd be amenable to that if you like.
Carolyn, get in touch. There's a synergy here, collaboration, joint venture. That's what we're talking about. I love Mary Jane. You thought of that. Awesome. Very good. All right. We have got one more caller, Peg Duchesne.
Hey, Mary Jane, thank you so much. You know, I already have your book and your workbook, which is such a valuable tool. I put in the chat priceless. But I'm so glad you're doing this because, as I think Laura Barker said, we have the book, you put it on your shelf, you go through a little bit, then you put it away. I'm so glad we're going to work together collaboratively to get it done and have it as the resource it's meant to be. You are just an incredible example of turning adversity into great things for other people. So thank you, my friend.
Thank you, Peg. Thank you very much.
Fantastic. So good. And that is true. She has taken something that was a true mess and turned it into the message to help the masses. And I thank you, Mary Jane, for being a part of our world, our community, and bringing this huge value. Final thoughts or comments before we wrap today?
No, I just hope everyone at least look at the digital copy and you'll say, no, we need the real thing, and call it your own. You cannot make a mistake and you can revise. You read something 4 months later, you're like, what was I thinking? So you can change it easily. And you can give a copy to your attorney to see what you really think and in your words. And keep it nearby. It's not a Thanksgiving dinner conversation. It's between you and your partner, and let maybe a tried and true trusted friend know what it is and where it is. But that's it.
That's it. Excellent. Good. Barbara asked, would it be good to have a kit for each my grandfather and then one for my parents?
Yes, everyone needs their own.
Right, because we all have different things and wishes, and we're going to go at different times. And
that's right. And one more detail, and it's what I bumped into, and I knew he wanted to be cremated. Fine, that's done. Now what? So if you want to be cremated, would you let people know where you want to end up? I lived in the gorge. I could have thrown him off the cliff with real reason when I bumped into that one. So yeah, it's details.
Excellent. Well, thank you for guiding us in the nitty-gritty details to make it better for all of us to survive the business of dying. Thank you, Mary Jane. I appreciate you for being with us and doing this work. Thank you to all of our listeners and people joining us for Wow Wednesday. We're glad to have you with us. Be sure to check out womensprosperitynetwork.com for all of the ways that we're here to support you in creating and living your best life as you make a positive impact in the world. So thank you for being you. Have a beautiful day, everyone. Bye, MJ. Bye, Mary Jane.
See you.